psychologically to believe that.
All right, thank you, Pastor Brawley. Dr. Eccles.
If I can answer that question, who does it serve psychologically to accept that the creator of all allowed what transpired to his people to happen as a form of judgment for a period of time? It helps me. And it helps those who believe as I do, because I needed some answers. I couldn't understand why I didn't make a choice to be raised where I was raised, to be born into the conditions I was born into. I was born into it. And I needed some help. Help me understand this. Where I am today, it was not my first stop. I was a 5%er. Couldn't tell me I wasn't God until I looked at my condition and said, why can't I change nothing then? Something's not right with me being God. Then I went into, initially I was introduced to the Israelites, but I didn't really understand what they were saying. I think my mind was too young. Then I found Christianity. And there was some things, at first I started to read the Bible because I was also listening to the Nation of Islam because I wanted to disprove it. And as I read those scriptures, I started to receive healing. And I started to see myself. And I started to see what's wrong. But at that point, it started to produce healing, started to change character. But it still didn't make sense. Abba, I love you. My family loves you. I go to a church every Sunday. And we rolling all over the floor, hollering, doing everything we can. What's wrong? Then it came back and I would read the scriptures and I would say, Pastor, this don't sound like nobody but us. Going into slavery, back into Egypt for the final time, for 400 years on a slave ship. Hold on. Is that us? No, it said Egypt. Okay. Egypt. Not understanding bondage. Not understanding again with ships. And so for me, and I'm not going to preach and teach or any of that, so I'll say this. For me, and I was a serious Christian and I'm a serious Hebrew, I understand now. And I understand my ways, the choices that me and my people have made has caused this problem. And so I would look at even those who converted into the faith and I would say, well, not all, let me say that, but I'm not going to get, I would say, why is it that I see the manifestation of some of the things happening in that community and not mine? And then I heard clear as day, if you do what I told you to do, if you follow the laws that I've given you, if you do what I tell you to do, you get my result, and stop trying to do what you want to do. Because my behaviors were destroying you at this point, but that's all I knew. So I began to say, if you want God results, do it his way. And I know everybody's not a believer in the scriptures. And I can't, that's for him to do with you. If he don't wake you up, you won't be woke, is the way I understand it. But what I am saying is this, it helped me. It helped me because I've never been a person who accepted a state of bondage or think that I'm less than or inferior in any way. But I needed to understand, because I know I've come from a very courageous people. I would say, how is it that I could watch my uncles roll and fall out of 3-story windows, roll and get back up like nothing happened? And yet some people came on the ship and took us. Something's not right. I just couldn't understand what was going on. What's wrong with this narrative? What's wrong with these people? America's first everything happened at the hands of people who were enslaved. There was no apprenticeship. Who taught them how to build? Somebody got to give me some questions. Who are these people really? Right? And so as I begin to ask more and more questions, I got more and more answers. And guess what? And I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about Caesar Borgia. I'm not talking about what they taught you in these churches. I'm talking about understanding the scriptures the way that many, not all, but some Hebrew Israelites understand we don't have full knowledge. But we have a certain level of knowledge that gives true understanding and it makes sense. I tell you one thing. We say that we're here. There was a state, with this ceremony, everything we're doing is marking a 400-year period. I say it's not since we were taken out of the land, but since that final group was brought into a land where a marker started where it said this final group is brought into this land, and here's the official sanctioning of slavery, August 20th, 1619, ends August 20th, 2019. That's the 400-year marker. Something's happening. There's something happening that we can't put our hand on. And I'll tell you this, I say it's the Most High. I say it's his time. I say it's his will. I say it's his order. I say it's his plan. We've been trying for a very long time to make it happen and try to understand it. It hasn't been working for us. So I'm saying to everybody, Just begin to ask some questions. Let's rethink some things and understand we can't say he's omnipresent and then think he didn't know about this.
All right.
Come on.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I wanted to add a little before my sister comes in, just 2 minutes.
Yes.
The Quran, as the Islamic perspective, has categorically stated that God or Allah is not an architect of evil. Allah is not an architect of evil.
Right.
All what evil man does is from his own ego.
Yeah.
That is why you find the Muslims prostrating to God all the time. Because when you prostrate to God, according to Islam, you control your self-desires and your lusts. So, I don't know what you mean by reparations. I think Christians will answer you to that question. And also, we have to also understand that when you subdue yourself to a level that you don't understand who you are, that is where somebody can use you. Do you understand? Do you remember that there were some people who came to Africa and made use of some advantages, or they took advantage of something which is ignorance and lack of self-actualization. And God, Allah says in the Quran that He can punish you when you don't know yourself. Allah can punish you when you don't understand what He wants you to do. Allah can punish you when He wants you to turn back and do the right thing. So, we are suffering from the ignorance of our forefathers. And then the betrayal of some forefathers. Some also sold out the forefathers because of what they didn't know of its value was. So we ask God to bring us the right path. And let me give it to myself.
Thank you. Let me trace it back.
I want to answer the question the doctor asked in a different way. I heard you ask the question, if we believe that God did this, and that God is the architect of everything that has happened to us, then the oppressor, please correct me if I'm wrong, then the oppressor, I don't know where you are, so I was looking for you. Thank you. Then the oppressor then becomes merely the tool of God's agency, right?
God is the oppressor.
Yes. Therefore, if that is what we suggest, then how can we talk of reparations? And my response is we cannot.
That's right.
We cannot. And even if you take respecting, and I do think that that is a huge conversation that I wish we had a different opportunity to talk about, that we do come from different lenses and different contexts. But respecting what you're saying and the text that was given, the Exodus text, when Moses comes on behalf of God to take the Israelites from Mizrahi, from the narrow place, when Moses does that, God gives Moses specific instructions. And those instructions are not to go and talk to the Israelites, but to the Pharaoh. And when they leave with reparations. They take the silver, they take the gold because God says so. So if we are here because God has deemed us to be here, and if we are here as punishment for what we have done, then we shouldn't be talking about reparations. And that may be so, but the reparations conversation should not be.
Thank you, Reverend Blackman, Ben Yehuda, and then we'll go to our next question. We're gonna limit the questions to about 3 to 4.
I find it a very logical question, and I would answer it on this wise, that our problems are spiritual as a people. Our problems are not economic. We sit on the richest continent. We're the richest people on the planet. Richest, poorest people. Poorest, richest people, however you want to look at it. Our problems are not political. We just talked about Ghana's independence leading the way. All the African nations got independence now. It's not about politics. Our problems on this planet are spiritual. And we define that problem we define that spirituality, first of all, as a relationship. I'm not going to get into back and forth about the gender breakdown of this relationship. It's a critical part of it. But let's call God a parent. Father, mother, whatever. In an ideal family, it's a father and a mother. But somebody got to have the final word in the house. Patriarchy got a bad name. But why? Chauvinism is wrong and evil. But it's either going to be patriarchal or matriarchal. Another issue. The problem is our relationship with God. Now, the problem that comes in if we do not see God being involved in the transatlantic slave trade, the problem that enters in is that we inherently accept that a handful of white people got off of a boat, rode on the shore, and went into the interior and carried millions of our people away. I'm not ready to concede that kind of power to some stringy-haired, picking whatever with rednecks. I'm not going to give that kind of power to them. God had to have been involved that would allow us to have fallen. We can't mark it at 500 years ago. Something happened to us as a people that allowed us to fall where some others could come from the outside. What did it say? That the ruin of a nation begins where? In the house. That's where it began. So I'm not ready to concede that. I don't understand why our Afrocentric brethren cannot cross the Suez Canal and accept the biblical text as an African text as well. There's some force field that allows us not to be able to see that that's an African text. We give credit to white people too much.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to take questions. 3 more questions.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sar Nikyasha. I come from New York and I'm a Hebrew. You know, I sit here and I listen to what is being said. But in all that's being said, religion have destroyed us. We need spirituality.
Yes.
And when you start dealing with your spirituality, you start finding more things. It's spirituality that put you all up there, not religion. So we need to drop that religion thing at the moment because we have enemies. We don't have just one enemy. We have the world as an enemy because the world came to destroy us. And they destroyed us. So I'm saying we need to look at that. Spirituality is what we need.
Comment. I don't think that was a question. Yeah, but if you have a comment or a question, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Evangelist Kainde Ulafusho. I am the representative of the Panafest in Nigeria. I'm an evangelist. I preach the word of God, and I'm not ashamed of the word of God and of the gospel of God. Here today, we can see that Africans, we are faced with a lot of issues and crises. The first one is that there is the issue and the problem of identity crisis. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we are coming from. And we don't know where we are going. Every race in history has their own season of mockery, reproach. But we have seen in history how God has helped to erase those season of mockery, reproach. But why has the black continent of Africa continue to be in this state? One, I feel we need to be conscious of who we are. We don't have that. We need to be very aware, informed, and conscious of who we are. That we are black race of Africa, people that has intellect, power. We have power, but we are not releasing it. A season of our reproach, mockery, is over. But we have walked past the place of our grain. Pastors, the psalmist said, he made me to lie down in green. Pastors, the black race have walked past that zone. The black race came to the place of our calm, still waters. We walked past it. The black race has always allowed the worst of us to lead us in the UA. We've not allowed the best of us here in this world to be able to lead the Black Africa. We need to be conscious of you. We are people of power, intellect. We must begin to release power. Intellect that frees the mind, that makes us to see the light. We are groping in darkness. We are not seeing the light. We need to begin to see the light. We need to begin to go after the word, the knowledge that frees the mind, that sets our mind free, that make our mindset to begin to be what it should not be. The word of God says, I'm a preacher, I preach it, I'm not ashamed of it. The word of God says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Do we know the truth? Do we know God? Thank you.
Thank you for that powerful comment. Okay. My brother over there. Introduce yourself.
Afternoon, family. My name is Lakai Worrell. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, here with my pastor, David Keith Brawley. The rest of my family out of Brooklyn, New York. We do a lot of work, this presentation called the Ma'afa. But Pastor will talk about that another time. But a basic question I have, family, is if we, because there's a lot of stuff being spoken today, and I'm hearing a lot of stuff. But one of my basic questions is, how did we get here? I hear us talk about we didn't do this, we didn't follow certain things, we didn't follow instructions, we didn't follow the rules. Well, what are the rules, what are the instructions that we collectively did not follow, right? If anybody can explain that. Right. And then, how do we reconnect to them, right? And have clarity to follow them. Because I hear everybody saying, everybody speaking so eloquently, and I love it. But I'm still confused as far as what did we do wrong? And how do we adjust it so that we can get to this new identity, this new space of self? I hope that's clear.
That's a wonderful question. Okay, go ahead.
I think the question assumes this construct of original sin, which again doesn't exist in other traditions. Right. You know, so I can't answer that, and I want to refer to those who can. However, I can tell you how we got to where we are, and something that did happen, a number of things that happened. We cannot talk about spirituality and religion as if it exists in a vacuum. It exists within the context of this construct of culture, which is how we live our lives every day.
Yeah, but respectfully, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking you, what happened? Everybody's talking about
let me answer a couple of questions.
How did we get
Let me answer a few questions. Let me answer that. There are a few things that happened. Okay. And part of what we need to look at as we're looking at, canonical texts, is looking at the law. Is looking at the law. We started out talking about HR, whatever this bill is. But let's look at some things. Like in 1221, the Charter Punga that was created in Mali was the first human rights charter in the world. Okay, it acknowledged our humanity. It was something that it was written that acknowledged our humanity. Okay, there are issues that came up within the church, such as the papal bull of Dom de Vieses, which blessed the racialization of the slave trade. That happened in 1452. We have the Code Noir, which was also blessed by the that dehumanized African descendants
in the Americas and elsewhere in 1685. There are a number of laws that have shaped our thinking, that has been influenced by church teachings, that has also been influenced by other economic considerations that put us in a place where we are not loving each other, where we are not respecting one another, where we don't know ourselves. Someone spoke very well about institutions, such as religious institutions and schools, how we have been misinformed and mistrained. We have to take a look at the psychosocial impact of the laws that shape who we are and our behaviors, because that influences our spiritual behavior as well. We can't ignore these things. And this comes back to the issue of reparations too. Yeah, we can't talk about reparations on one hand. Not if we're talking about financial reparations, not if we're talking about academic reparations, but we can't talk about self-reparations.
We can't talk about getting spiritually centered again, of being grounded. Whatever rules, quote unquote, you abide by. You know, every culture, every religion, every form of spiritual practice has its own set of rules, of laws, of principles, of constructs. Whatever it is that you believe in, go back to that. Go back to that. There has to be a return to the orthodoxy of your faith.
Okay.
A return to that.
Thank you, Mabo. Pastor Burley.
I think we have to be careful of dichotomous thinking. Either or. Can it be both and?
Yes. Exactly.
Can it be both and? Can it possibly be we need to repent, we need to look at some of our adapted behaviors that we have learned in our oppression that we need to revisit? Is it possible we have to realign ourselves with one another and moreover with God? But is it also possible, you know, we talk about laws, and the laws that we may have broken. What about the laws that have been written against us?
Right.
Those are the things that I like to talk about today. So look, when I hear you talk about what laws were broken, what rules were broken, I mean, we're talking about the same thing. Just think about it. Slavery just morphs. Oppression, it just morphs. It takes on different forms, and it continues to exist because, again, we have to rise up in our responsibility to one another, our responsibility to our humanity. And I think my brother said it with more passion than I did. Our identity is really what informs that. Who we are and whose we are. When we identify ourselves as the people of God, then that gives us the power to turn the situation around.
Thank you. We have one question. I'm going to allow two more questions. Two more questions.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I have a few questions and okay, just one question. Okay, before I say anything, I want to believe we are all from somewhere. We have families. We became to existence because a woman and a man came together. I believe most of you agree with me. Okay. If your mom and your dad gives birth to you and they take you to school and they try as much as possible to bring you up in the best of ways, don't you think they have rules and regulations to give you to follow?
Absolutely.
They should have that. Yes. Now, if you agree with me, don't you think the one who brought you here on the face of this earth would have some rules and regulations for you to follow? Yes. If you follow the rules and regulations, you will be free. Now,
your own question.
Yes, yeah. I know I'm answering my own question. Now, please give me the chance. Now, if we do not understand who we are, as in, what's our purpose in life? Why? What's our purpose in life? Is it to come, go to school, after high school, and then you go to the university, get a degree, and then from the degree you get some masters, and then after the masters you get a PhD, and then you get married, and then you get some kids, and then you make sure your kids go to school. Is that it?
Ask the question.
let's before we started this, we asked everybody to kind of respect this sacred space, please, and allow everybody to speak. You can go ahead and if you have a question, just answer it. Do you have it to a specific panelist?
Now my question is, what's the purpose of life?
All right. Thank you. Can anybody answer that? Okay. Yeah, that's deep. That's a whole other topic.
Philosophical question.
Yeah, we'll go.
The purpose of my life is to worship God. I was created to worship God. Everything I do is in worship of God. And when I err, it is in that area of worship. Worship incorporates my justice stances. Worship incorporates my questions. Worship incorporates how I treat my neighbor and how I treat the stranger. Ultimately, I am created to worship God.
Thank you for that. Benjamin. I hope so.
15-second statement, which is one of the things that's been demonstrated by this conversation is interfaith dialogue takes time and intentionality. So I want to say that. What I do want to ask is for the panel to reflect on what it would mean if each of us is fully operating in our own traditions, not trying to change anybody else, and finding pathways of interconnection so that we can all be free.
Right.
So that you become fully whatever you are. And worship in that form fully. And find ways to connect so that we as people of African descent can help each of us be free.
That's a wonderful question, and I think that leads into our panelists making their final statements so that we got to close. So I think that's a beautiful segue into that. So, but if you want to respond, and then we'll move on from the left to end it. Let's keep it about 3 minutes, please.
Starting with the statement that you just made about our traditions. Yeshua made the statement, he said, by your traditions you've made the word of God of none effect. You remove the power of the word, the power of the law, the power of this spirituality. Someone else mentioned about worship, their purpose being worship. What is worship? What do we call worship? Is it going to church, singing, dancing, jumping up and down?
No.
But we've been taught that when we go to church or mosque or synagogue, that is our day of worship and we're going to worship. If you don't understand the Bible, which I would venture most of you don't, from the Hebraic understanding, it says 6 days you shall work/worship. Why? Because the exact same word for work is the exact same word for worship in Hebrew. There's no distinction between what you exert energy for in terms of what you are worshiping. It might be a car or a house that you're worshiping if you're not careful. In fact, those are the gods of stone and wood and metal.